Law Parish Church, where grace happens.
Welcome to Seeds for Sunday, from wherever in the world you're joining us. And today we're going to be reflecting a wee bit on the question that Jesus asks: who do you say that I am?
Bright morning star, shine in the darkness, guide me to where you are. Bright morning star, hope in this hard place, guide me to where you are. Lord, in the day I falter, and as the pain takes a hold, God, let me know your presence healing my soul. Then when the storm clouds gather, and as the waves crash and fall, God, let me see your goodness over it all. Bright morning star, shine in the darkness, guide me to where you are. Bright morning star, hope in this hard place, guide me to where you are. Lord, in the day I falter, and as the pain takes a hold, God, let me know your presence healing my soul. Then when the storm clouds gather, and as the waves crash and fall, God, let me see your goodness over it all. Bright morning star, shine in the darkness, guide me to where you are.
Who do the people say I am? Jesus asks his disciples. Imagine if we were to go through Israel and do a vox pop, a microphone and camera, stopping a passerby What answers might we get? Go to the temple in Jerusalem, say, and ask a Sadducee, one of Israel's aristocracy, who do you say Jesus is? He's a peasant from Nazareth, inciting the people with dangerous talk, and we all know where that will end if it's not stopped. We seek out a Pharisee just before he steps inside the synagogue and ask, who do you say Jesus is? He's a carpenter's son. He's never been to rabbi school. He shows no respect for our traditions we have safeguarded for generations. He leads the gullible astray with his laxity, mixes with the unclean. He eats with the worst of them. We go to the palace of Herod Antipas and ask one of his courtiers, who do you say Jesus is? Listen, there is nothing that my master will not do to reclaim the title of his father, King of the Jews. He's married his brother's wife. He's moved the capital of Galilee, and he's renamed it after the emperor. He's beheaded a prophet that got in his way. Who is Jesus? Let me tell you, he is a dead man walking. The rich, the self-appointed keepers of piety, the ambitious politicians craving Rome's attention, they all have one thing in common. They want nothing from Jesus. Jesus has nothing that they want. But go to the villages in Galilee, to the day labourers who toil in fields they don't own. Go to those who stump up from their poverty, taxes for the temple, taxes for Herod, taxes for Rome. Go to the poor who can't keep the fineries of the law and put bread on the table. Go to the beggars, the blind and the sick, and ask that same question, who do you say Jesus is? He opened my eyes when I was blind. He brought my daughter back from the dead. He fed us on a hillside with a couple of fish and a few loaves of bread. He tells us stories how we are the treasure in a field that God sells everything to buy. He says we poor are blessed. He cleared the temple of the money changers. He called the Pharisees blind guides. And he named Herod an old fox. Who is Jesus? He is like John the Baptist getting us ready. He is like Elijah challenging a corrupt king. He is like Jeremiah scolding the selfish leaders of the people. In the villages, among those barely getting by, those abused by economic and religious systems that keep the wealthy rich, keep the holy pure, keep the godless in power, amongst those whose lives are hard and expendable, there's an openness to Jesus. Why? Well, what have they got to lose? To them, Jesus is good news. Often, is it not when people decide they have nothing to lose that they begin to take Jesus seriously? When every other avenue is closed down, faith becomes the opening door of possibility. As it was for Jairus, the leader of the synagogue, who steps away from his tradition and finds Jesus and says, "Please come and put your hand on my daughter that she might become well." Like the woman who for 12 years spent everything she had trying to heal an emission of blood, until all she had left was to secretly touch the hem of Jesus' garment. The blind beggar at the gate shouting for mercy. The dying thief hanging from a cross, asking to be remembered. People who had nothing left. Maybe it's when we have nothing less left to lose, Jesus starts to become good news. But I wonder, is it not the case? Often we are like the folks T.S. Eliot describes in his poem The Four Quartets. People who spend their lives easily, distracted from distraction by distraction. A box set and Netflix, an Amazon delivery, another beer. Whatever it is that keeps us asleep to what we deny or most need. Don't really want anything from you today, Jesus. I've got enough to get by. Maybe it's not until life leaves us with no means of overcoming something, denying something, avoiding something, when we are put in touch with our hidden need, that it's then we discover Jesus has something we need. I think our pride hates to admit that. Hates to admit that our need is often the soil where the seeds of faith find room to grow. So what are you in need of today? What has your attention? What's giving you life? What will heal your pain? What are you avoiding? What will make peace with your past? Where are you looking for meaning? And does Jesus have a place in that? Jesus asks his disciples, "Who do you say I am?" And Simon answers, "You are God's anointed, Son of the living God." You're more than just a prophet, he says, more than just a messenger sent. When you touch Jesus, God is felt. When you speak Jesus, we hear the echo of a bigger voice. When you challenge Jesus, it's like God is staring. When you forgive, it's God transforming. Jesus, here and now. God is happening in you, happening in a human life right before our eyes. That's Simon's confession. That's what he's witnessed. That's what he's experienced. And Jesus responds to that by saying, "Blissful are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven." Simon doesn't arrive at this conclusion through, common sense, because he's seen something and thinks, well, that's obvious. It's a conclusion anyone would come to. To see in Jesus a life shot through with the presence of God. To see that God is happening in the here and now in front of him. That was a gift of faith that Simon is given, that he received. Is faith not always a gift we receive? A gift that we should care for, treasure, nurture. A gift that needs to be stretched, that has to grow. If we have faith, however small, don't take it for granted. It's a gift you've been given. You are the anointed, Simon says, Son of the living God. In companionship with Jesus, Simon gradually sees who Jesus is. That's the gift. The gift is the companionship with Jesus that allows faith to happen. And that faith that Simon has, it's not the end of a destination, it's the beginning of a journey. It's not a conclusion like the answer to a sum, but a mystery of love that he has been drawn into, that he doesn't fully understand, but is willing to give himself to. And that gift of faith is doing something. It's transforming Simon. And Jesus names that transformation. He gives him a new identity. It's as though Jesus is saying to him, Simon, what you are beginning to recognize is changing you. Let me tell you who you now are. He says, I tell you that you are Peter, which means rock. And on this rock, I will build my assembly, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. The rock that Jesus is building on is the declaration, is the recognition that in him God is happening. And a community is born out of that recognition, made up from others who similarly are open to receiving the gift of faith. An assembly made up of ordinary people who bring their wound, their gift, who bring their flaw and their goodness, who bring what's unresolved in them, and their faith that Jesus is God in our midst. That this is a community that grows around these words that Peter declares. And Jesus says this community of people made up from those who are exploring what it means that he is the living Son of God. This community taking their shape around the life that God has given to us through Jesus. That the gates of Hades will never overcome it. What's going on in these words of Jesus there? Well, Hades is the symbol of the past as a dead end. Mostly throughout the Bible it's referred to as Sheol. It's a place where there is no access to the future. Hades is the thing done that can't be changed. It's the darkness that falls and is never, opened by the dawn of a new day. It's the place where what we regret is never overturned, where our weakest and worst moments have the last say, where life gets stuck in the endless loop of an end that permits no new beginning. Well, such a hellishness shall not overcome the community that's forming around Jesus. A community where we discover the past is not the full stop on our story, and that a new beginning is waiting to happen, moment by moment, prayer by prayer, where we are learning how forgiveness travels further than regret. A community where we discover our goodness is never lost in the rubble of whatever we failed at, where our identity is kept safe and sure, beloved of God. And that means we always have a future that's never cancelled out by our past. That is what the gift of church is. A community that is realising all of that in its ordinary day-to-day living around the trust that God has shown up in Jesus and is still with us by his presence today. Church is the assembly that together finds its meaning in the life of God come to us in Jesus. A life that's forever pushing against the doors of hellishness. And to this community, Jesus says he will give the keys of the kingdom of heaven, so that whatever is bound on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever is loosed on earth will be loosed in heaven. And here, of course, we as church are being given the responsibility for making wise choices, for making decisions that allow God's kingdom to happen here and now. What brings healing? What helps forgiveness to take deeper root? What transforms? What gives meaning? Who gets valued? Church is given here by Jesus the task of working such things out. To do so without selfishness, without fear, without suspicion, without panic or self-protection. But to do that takes continual wisdom, takes honesty, takes the refusal of denial, looks at ourselves accountably. And if truth be told, church hasn't always in any way been good at that. But God is endlessly patient, and Christ is forever present, and the light of his love that guides us is never withdrawn. So we are given fresh opportunity to think, reflect, pray and act in ways that better allow us to share and show that Jesus is risen. I wonder, are we ready to acknowledge our need and allow that need to be the place where Jesus meets us? Have we opened ourselves to the gift of faith? And if so, how are we nurturing and caring for that gift? How will we answer Jesus' question to us? Who do you say I am? Who are we willing to allow Jesus to become? Yes, in our day-to-day lives, but also in our life as a church. Who are we willing to allow Jesus to become in the story of the life we have been given? Amen.
May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face shine down on you and show you grace. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord turn his face to